And then the other thing that happened, the smoke started pouring out of the baptizer's pockets. The fire was burning those pieces of paper, those papers of confession. But the fire was doing more than just burning the papers. The fire was purifying him. The congregation couldn't see this part, but John felt in that fire the care of God, embracing him, assuring him, helping him let go of what he needed to let go of. Well, by the end of the first verse, John had made it from one end of that corridor all the way to the other, and he stepped out, and he stopped the drums, and he stopped Mary Ann and the fire-breathing organ, and he snapped his fingers, and the fire went out. No damage to the floor at all. John's beard was glowing a little bit, but other than that, his skin was fine, everything was fine. But he was changed. You could see it. It was like there was silver and gold kind of shining through his skin. And he reached into his pocket and he announced to the congregation, I only have 2 papers left. I put 3 in my pocket, but I only have 2 left. One's gone. And they could all see that the other 2 papers were smaller. The guilt John had about the argument with Fred was gone. It was burned away. He felt like he was forgiven, and he'd forgiven himself. It was just over. He was free of it. The other issues, remembering that kings are people too, and his feelings of inadequacy, he was still working on those. But God was helping him work on those, and the problem was a little smaller than it was before. Pastor Baptizer said, I want you to go home this week and think about your repentance this Advent. What sins are haunting you? Where do you need forgiveness? Where is there brokenness? What do you need God to help you change this Advent? Let this be a part of your preparation. Next week, you'll get to walk through the refiner's fire. Well, the congregation went home a bit stunned. Before this day, they thought church was pretty wild when Leonard put an extra jalapeno in his special church potluck 4-alarm chili, making it a 5-alarm chili. They didn't quite know what to do with fires that didn't burn but purified and changed. But they thought carefully about their repentance through the course of the week, and they came to worship prepared the next Sunday. And of course, word about what happened at worship that morning worship got out around town. Ron, the chair of the evangelism committee, saw this as a great opportunity to get new people into the church. This isn't church, he said, this is a circus. So the next Sunday, church was packed. The service began. John the Baptizer welcomed everyone, handed the drills to the ushers, and they cleared people from 2 rows, and they took out the pews. Then he ran with the aim and flame down the corridor, and whoo, fire showed up. Then he handed paper and pencils to everyone and said, write your confessions on these pieces of paper. Take as many as you need. Any sins that are haunting you, write them down. Any brokenness in your life that you want God to change, write it down on the paper. Wherever you need forgiveness, wherever you need change, write it down. Then we'll do our march of repentance through the fire, and we'll see what God does. Everyone, members, visitors, they started writing, and they poured their hearts onto those pieces of paper. People of all ages. One wrote, I just had my hip replaced, and I was so mad about being in the hospital and my body letting me down that I was just angry at everybody, and I was so mean to the doctors, the nurses, the family. I'm not that way. An 11-year-old wrote, the dog didn't eat my homework. Parents put their issues down. I feel like I should be giving my child so much more than what they receive. Another wrote, I lost it last night, and I hit my child. It happened so fast. I'll never forgive myself. The sins that torment our celebrities were written down. I had an affair. It's complicated. It haunts me. Another wrote, I spent so much time chasing success that I lost what really mattered. There were others. I don't have money for presents this year. I don't have money for anything. Something needs to change. Addictions, old and new, were written down. My drinking's out of control again. I just about had an accident. I need help. Another wrote in small letters so that no one could possibly see. I'm addicted to porn. I'm chained to my computer, and I'm too ashamed to ask for help. They wrote everything, how they didn't have time for their faith, especially in Advent, fights with friends, partners, parents, the shadows of selfishness, guilt in the face of a neighbor's need. Everything was written down. Finally, John said, stuff your papers in your pockets, and we'll start our march of repentance in a minute and let God's fire do its work. I've got 10 drums today. I need 10 volunteers, and they started on those drums. Boom, 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 and it was bigger this time. Marianne, pull out the stops, 119, let the windows rattle. Oh, come, and it just started raising this huge noise. And John went around, he opened up the doors and the windows. It's going to get smoky in here. And then he marched into the fire, and they all followed him. They all went into that fire, one by one. And in the midst of the chaos, everyone who marched through that fire felt the care of God. They felt it wrapped around them for those moments. They were assured they were loved no matter what. They were assured there is always forgiveness, and they can forgive themselves no matter what. They were assured there is always hope for change. And they did change. They began to shine a little bit. Their lives weren't perfect. Not everything had been healed. Even if God were forgiving them, most weren't ready to forgive themselves yet, but the burdens were a little bit lighter. They could feel a difference. Pastor Baptizer smiled. It's begun. We're getting ready. Soon the child will come to lead us on the next stage of our journey.